Have you ever seen a child who looks too old for their age? The one who never cries, who never asks, who seems so mature. We often call them strong, independent, wise beyond their years. But behind that quiet strength lives a story most people will never hear. This is the story of children who raised themselves, children who learned to cook their own meals before they learned how to spell their names, children who comforted their parents instead of being comforted, children who put on a mask of strength because the alternative was collapse. And maybe this is also your story. Let's call her Anna. When Anna was 7, she discovered that if she wanted dinner, she had to make it herself. Her mother was often lost in her own storms, her father rarely around. So she dragged a chair to the stove, lit the fire, and boiled noodles with hands that trembled. By 9, Anna knew how to hide her tears, because tears only brought guilt or silence. By 11, she learned how to smile at teachers, assuring them she was fine, because admitting she wasn't would make her too much. By 13, she became the caretaker, the one who checked if her little brother ate, the one who closed the windows at night, the one who held her mother's hand when panic came. Anna grew up in a house, but never really had a childhood. Children like Anna develop what psychologists call a false self. It's a mask, carefully constructed, beautifully convincing. The false self says, "I'm fine. I don't need anything. I can take care of myself." It's survival. Because when your caregivers are unreliable, you learn quickly. Depending on them is dangerous. So you build walls of independence. You shrink your needs. You silence your cries. You become your own parent. But here's the hidden cost. The child who raises themselves learns survival, but not safety. They learn responsibility, but not They learn how to perform strength, but forget how to feel loved. Imagine carrying an invisible backpack since childhood. Inside it, unspoken fears, adult responsibilities, the echo of unmet needs. This is the silent burden. No one sees it, no one praises it, but it shapes everything. For Anna, it meant that even when she was finally old enough to leave home, she never left the role. At work, she was the dependable one, the overachiever, the rescuer. In relationships, she was the caretaker, the one who gives but struggles to receive. Her friends admired her strength, but inside, she still longed for someone to simply say, "It's okay. You don't have to hold it all together." Anna grew older. She went to college. She got a job. She built a life. On the surface, she was impressive, independent, self-sufficient, reliable. But deep down, the same patterns whispered through every choice she made. Because here's the truth. When a child raises themselves, the story doesn't end when they turn 18. It only changes shape. Psychologists call these patterns schemas, deep, unconscious beliefs about how the world works. For Anna, the first schema was simple. I am alone. As a child, no one came when she cried. So, as an adult, she stopped expecting comfort altogether. When stress crushed her at work, she didn't reach out. When heartbreak split her chest open, she stitched it shut in silence. When friends offered help, she smiled and said, "I'm fine." Independence became her armor. But armor is heavy. There was another message carved into her bones. Love must be earned. As a child, Anna learned that being good kept the peace, so she became the overachiever, the perfectionist, the one who carries the weight of the world with a steady smile. In adulthood, this translated into a relentless chase, overworking to prove her value, saying yes when every fiber of her body wanted to say no, confusing productivity with worth. The child who raised herself never learned that worth can exist simply in being. Instead, she built an identity around doing. Children who grow up without safety often develop what I call A watchtower mind, always scanning, always on alert, waiting for something to collapse. Anna carried this into adulthood as anxiety. Every email felt urgent. Every pause in a conversation sounded like rejection. Every silence felt dangerous. Her nervous system had been trained in survival mode. Even in calm moments, she couldn't rest, because resting felt unsafe. In love, Anna was giving, endlessly giving. She cooked, she listened, she soothed, she sacrificed. But when it came to her own needs, silence. Because deep down, she believed her needs were a burden. She feared that if she asked for too much, she would be abandoned. So she gave, until she was empty. This is the paradox. The child who raised themselves becomes the adult who raises everyone else. But when someone tries to care for them, they flinch, pull away, or feel unworthy. They crave intimacy, yet feel safest in emotional distance. Eventually, the mask cracks. The endless giving, the silent endurance, the perfectionism. It all catches up. Anna found herself waking up exhausted, no matter how much she slept. She stared at her computer screen, unable to type. She felt waves of numbness, a quiet collapse she couldn't explain. This is burnout, not just from work, but from a lifetime of carrying what was never meant for her small shoulders. Children who raise themselves become masters of performance. But the danger of wearing a mask for too long is that you start to forget your own face. Anna knew how to be strong, reliable, independent. But who was she when no one needed her? What dreams belonged to her, not to survival? What parts of her were real? And what parts were just the performance of strength? These were the questions that haunted her. And maybe they haunt you too. Healing begins with awareness. The moment you recognize the mask for what it is, not your identity, but your armor. Anna began to ask questions she had once buried. Why do I always say I'm fine when I'm not? Why does rest feel unsafe? Why do I give so much and accept so little? These questions were painful. They unraveled illusions. But they also opened a door. The possibility of living as herself, not just as her survival role. Psychologists often say, what is not named cannot be healed. For Anna, naming the wound meant acknowledging truths she had long avoided. She was neglected. She was forced to grow up too soon. She carried burdens no child should. This was not self-pity. It was truth. And truth is the soil where healing grows. Children who raise themselves often miss the basic ingredients of love: safety, comfort, care. But as adults, they can learn to reparent themselves. Reparenting means giving yourself what you never received. Speaking to yourself with gentleness, not criticism. Allowing rest, without guilt. Saying, you don't have to earn love. You are already worthy. It feels awkward at first, like learning a language you should have spoken since birth. But slowly, it rewrites the script. Anna once believed love meant carrying everyone else's burdens. But healing taught her another truth. Boundaries are love too. Boundaries are the pause where you ask, is this mine to carry? It's saying no when your body says no. It's protecting your own energy, not just pouring it out. It's remembering that you are not responsible for saving everyone, because the child who raised themselves was once forced to hold everything. But the adult can choose to put some things down. One of the hardest lessons for self-raised children is this: it's safe to be helped. At first, Anna resisted. When friends asked if she needed anything, she smiled and said no. When her partner noticed her exhaustion, she hid behind, I can handle it. But slowly she experimented with honesty. She whispered, actually, I'm tired. She admitted, I need support. And to her surprise, the world didn't collapse. Instead, people showed up. This is the paradox. The more you let yourself need, the more real connection you allow. Healing rarely happens in isolation. For Anna, therapy became a stage where she didn't need to perform, where she could cry, rage, grieve, and not be abandoned. But healing also came through safe relationships, friends who didn't demand her mask, partners who respected her boundaries, communities where authenticity was valued over performance. Because trauma is formed in relationships, and, often, it can only be healed in relationships. For years, Anna believed she belonged only on the stage, always performing strength. But healing showed her that life exists off stage too. A place where the light is softer, where the mask isn't needed, where rest is not weakness, but a birthright. And slowly, she learned to live there. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about meeting the child you once were, and saying what they always needed to hear. Anna knelt down, looked her younger self in the eyes, and whispered, "I'm here now. You don't have to carry it all anymore. You can rest." And in that moment, something softened. Not a full repair, not a perfect ending, but a crack in the armor, where light could finally seep through. The stage was never her home. The mask was never her face. The performance was never the full truth. She belonged to the field, to the sun, to the quiet spaces where she didn't have to perform, didn't have to earn, didn't have to hold the weight of the world alone. And maybe this story is yours too. Maybe you were the child who learned to cook your own meals, the one who smiled to hide the silence at home, the one who carried burdens no child should. If so, I want you to hear this. You are not weak for being tired, you are not broken for struggling to rest, and you are not unlovable because you learn to survive in silence. You matter, not for what you do, not for what you carry, but simply because you exist. The journey is not easy. It takes time to unlearn survival. It takes courage to lay down the armor. But every step you take toward honesty, every boundary you draw, every moment of rest you allow yourself, it is a small act of rebellion against the silence you grew up with. And little by little you will discover you were never meant to be just the caretaker. You were never meant to perform strength forever. You were always worthy of love, of safety, of rest. To the children who raised themselves, your story matters, your healing matters, and you are not alone in this. So put down the mask, step out of the spotlight, and remember, you deserve to be seen, not for the role you played, but for the soul you are.